The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Councillor Ford, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could I have a motion, please, for the minutes of the council meeting held on October 10th of 23. Thank you. Councillor Walliser. Seconded by Councillor Cernick. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from ESC, Grad Committee, request additional reduced rate. Now, I know council has a regular rate and a reduced rate, and I guess the ECS, Estevan Cobb School, would like that reduced. So here we have to Estevan City Council, from Estevan Comp School, grad ceremony at Affinity Place. Dear City Council, the Estevan Comprehensive School is again asking for a reduction in the rental fees for Affinity Place for the yearly grad ceremony. We have been holding grad at Affinity for the last 31 years, and we hope to continue this in the future. We have been given a quote for $7,800. The cost for the entire ceremony is expensed back to the students in the graduating class. We are asking for a reduction of the rental fee from $7,800 to $3,900 to help reduce the expense for the individual students for the next 5 years until the end of June of 2028. On behalf of the school and the students, we hope that you will look favorably upon this request. If you do have questions, please contact me, 634-4761, Brian Wright, Vice Principal. Now, on reading this, I would suggest that we do not agree to the following 5 years because we have 1 year left on council. I don't think it's fair to tie the new council's hands, but that is totally up to the present council. So I'll open the floor. Councillor Frey.
Thanks, Your Worship, and this is probably the City Manager. Just for clarification, the $3,900, that is what we normally do or would do the rate for the non-profits, maybe the City Clerk,
Thank you, Councillor Frank. Yes, I believe this has been given to them.
That's the rate that we would normally do. So then, yeah, I completely agree and would make that motion, Your Worship. I would do it for the 1 year. We did change that with another couple of groups as well. I think the Hospital Foundation, where we kind of just decided we would review this kind of year by year, just we're not tying future councils in with the ever-changing needs. But of course, we want grad to go off successfully, and we want to save the parents and graduates as much money as we can. So I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Frank. Councillor Vroba.
I will second that motion. I agree with exactly what Councillor Frank said.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have the GFL CART report for September 23. Could we have a motion, please, of acceptance for that? Councillor Clark. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cernick. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under written reports of, next under written reports of committees, we have the Creighton Lodge minutes of August 17th. Could we have a motion for that, please? Thank you. Councillor Walliser, seconded by Councillor Ford. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under written reports of committees, we have from the Estevan Art Gallery and Museum the meeting minutes of March 9th and May 4th. What's the wish of council on this? Do we have a motion? Councillor Vroba.
Yes, I will make that motion.
For both?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Cernick, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have from HR, the out-of-scope policy 2016-60.
Southeast Transportation.
Oh, sorry, I jumped. Southeast Transportation Planning Committee meeting minutes. Could we have a motion, please, for that? Thank you. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Cernick. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Clark, any comments?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. I did miss this meeting, but I just wanted to update that apparently the Ross Percy Road has been updated and done, and I think all the councils and RMs that put their signed the letter to send on to the government, I think it all helped a lot, and I think the appreciation is there for that, and I think that community was well deserved. So good to see that happened.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for that, Councillor Clark. And the mayor was very appreciative and thankful for that. So thanks to council for signing off on that, to surrounding RMs, and I know you supported that as well. So thank you for that. Next, under executive reports, HR out-of-scope policy 2016-2060. Did you want to maybe just give a few words on that, City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is just a legislative update, so recognizing Truth and Reconciliation Day in our statutory holidays clause, as well as updating the maternity, parental, and adoption leave to coincide with Saskatchewan Employment Act. So those are the only two changes, but just making sure that we're keeping our policies up to date with the legislation in the province.
Okay, thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Sazia. I know she did a lot of work on this as well. Thank you for that. Do we have a motion from council on this policy? Thank you. Councillor Walliser, seconded by Councillor Ford. Any further discussion, comments? Seeing none, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have the third-party grant policy 2021-77 revised. City Manager, any comments on that?
Thank you, Your Worship. I will let City Treasurer or City Clerk speak to this.
Okay, so they did all the heavy lifting. Okay, I'll turn to the City Treasurer and City Clerk for comments.
Yes, so the main thing is that now we're just going to amend the policy that I will be contacting all the groups myself. And so I have done that for this year, and I'm starting to get all the budget information in now.
Okay, thank you, City Treasurer. City Clerk, any further comments?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Frank.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, and I just had brought this one forward just as a request from some of the groups, just a little bit more correspondence before budget, so we appreciate having it in there, and I would make the motion to put it forward. But
okay, thank you. Councillor Walliser, then Councillor Vroba.
While we're making the amendment, can we update it so that it says completed applications are to be submitted annually, no later than October 15th? Currently, it does still list the 2021 date in the policy.
Okay. And hopefully moving forward, they will get back, or do we feel the need that we have to keep reminding every year? Probably?
Yes.
Okay.
They are volunteer-based boards that do experience quite a high turnover, so having a friendly reminder from the city about the budget year will be very beneficial for these groups.
Okay, so we'll have our staff put that on the computer for a gentle reminder so we continue to do so. Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I agree, and I'm thankful that the City Treasurer did reach out and let them remind the groups so they can get their application in. But one of my groups had a question whether or not their current next year's budget needed to be also attached. So I kind of looked through the policy and I didn't really see where it actually states exactly what is needed to be given. And so I was just wondering if that's something that we maybe could also amend in here, that exactly what we're expecting from them. we are asking for an audited financial statement, but that's usually the previous year. And I just thought at first, like, it's a given that we want their next year's budget so we can see where the money's going. But I don't actually see in this policy where it does state that we need the year coming up where funding will be provided.
Okay, Councillor Wallies.
This form on Schedule A is their budget. So whether they choose to present the current fiscal year budget using this form or attaching their own budget, that is the intent, is that they would show us the budget for that year.
Yeah, I just think, though, that some of these volunteer-based groups, they don't have everybody that's also good accounting and bookkeeping backgrounds. So I just thought if we could somehow clarify a little bit more, just to state that, it just, you know, even in point form, where it'll just state exactly which all the paperwork that we want. Like, if we want prior year budget, we want, which says in there, we want the audited budget, but we also want the future projected budget for the upcoming year that will basically be funded, just more in layman terms so that it's able to be easily read and projected for the groups.
I hope, Councillor Vroba, we're not suggesting these third-party groups are that needy we have to hold their hand through every process.
Well, I don't think I'm trying to be rude by saying anything like that. I'm more just trying to say that if we could just make sure it's clear and concise for them, it just might help. That was just a question that came up.
Okay.
So I don't think she needs her hand held. I think she just would like to make sure that that was what was needed. I too thought that it was clearly spelled out, but in the same breath, because the question came out, I just thought if we could just make it easier for them next year so that if it's now a new person coming in, they can just read through it, see a little checklist and say, yep, I've got everything that I need presented to them, done, and they send it in.
Okay.
So it's quite a small change, but.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Okay.
I need a seconder.
Seeing none, we need a seconder and a motion. Councillor Cernick seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under introduction of bylaws, we have bylaw 2023-2075 to amend Estevan Board of Police Commissioners with chairpersons. So all that means basically moving forward for the new board starting in January, we will be nominating a vice chair for the police board. Any questions on that? Councillor Ford.
And just for some clarification to the rest of the group, this came out of a training session that we attended at from the Police Commission back in, I think it was February, and they just recommended all people that were in that training session that there should be a practice we should be doing is just that nomination process of the vice chair.
Yeah, it doesn't leave anything up to guess. I mean, you know at the beginning of the year if you're nominated vice chair, whenever the chair can't make it, you assume the duties. Go ahead, Councillor Vroba.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Currently, our practice has been if you're the deputy mayor, or if not, they aren't on the board, then you would just assign someone. So I think that's more consistent basis to do it moving forward, so I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Ford. Any further questions or comments? Saying none, ready for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next, under public hearings and reports, we have none this evening. Giving notice, not this evening. Motions from committee, none. Consideration of bylaws, none. Inquiries, Councillor Vrobe.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I had one inquiry regarding pickleball, and the gentleman just kind of gave me a little bit of information regarding that pickleball is an up-and-coming sport, and it's quite interesting to hear how enthusiastic people are about pickleball. So right now, currently, they're looking at, when they do the courts, they're just chalking it in, and I know that's coming up in our next budget, so I just wanted to bring it up, that it's already been at city attention, and that it'll be looked at to see what we can do for pickleball in the community next year. The other thing was an inquiry for the up-and-coming concert for Trooper. I don't know if everybody's received their tickets yet or not, but I did have a gentleman asked me regarding getting tickets without having to use a credit card. So at that time, we didn't have an avenue for them. However, the city manager was able to set up something so that if anyone who didn't want to purchase a ticket with a credit card, they can go to the tourism booth at the leisure center, and they'll help them there, and they can pay cash for a ticket there. So,
Okay.
just so people know that.
Thank you, Councillor Broba, for that. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just would like to do a little follow-up on the incident at Affinity Place on Friday night, where they had a little smoke come out of one of the
Warmers.
One of the renters there, and how it was handled. So it would just like to see a little follow-up on that. I didn't see city staff there that were looking after what was going on. It just was kind of like, it's out and we'll just let the place fill with smoke. So would just like to see if that was handled properly.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have an incident with explanations for that. And yeah, Vanessa was there, thankfully, and she suggested right away to unplug it, which they had used the extinguisher on it without unplugging it. And, you know, again, bit of an emergency, people never thought, but they did then unplug it. And then she suggested they take it outside, which they did, which was a good thing because the fire started up again once they got it outside, and it had lots of oxygen to feed it. But again, it was then put out for the third time with the fire extinguisher, but we can get more information for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Walliser? Okay, thank you. Councillor Ford?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a reminder that the City of Estevan is hosting an accessible Halloween this coming Saturday, October 28th, at the Multipurpose Room from 12 until 2. And I believe the DBA and the Souris Valley Museum are also hosting various Halloween things that day. So while you're out trick-or-treating, and come on down to the Multipurpose Room. I think there's going to be about 10 groups with tables, and we'll have decorations and everything. So it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, it should be good. Thank you for that. I think we'll have a booth from the Rotary Club, so it should be good. Thank you. Councillor Cernick?
Thank you, Worship. I just had inquiries into Perkins Street. It's just getting quite grooved, and the potholes are starting to show, mainly from the truck traffic on there. So I know we've talked to Minister Carr in the past, and obviously I think we should keep the pressure on to get something done there for sure. Obviously, I agree that it should be the truck route, but obviously just need some upgrades, and it's grooving bad. So
yeah, and I think Councillor Cernick, you'll find Minister Carr willing to help us out on that. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I did have a discussion with Minister Carr, and we did put in a UHCP application to get funding to do that road. The UHCP framework doesn't designate that road. It still designates 4th Street, so there is some things to work around there. We also have priced out what a shave and pave would look like for budget discussion as well.
Yeah, and I think the big part of that issue when trucks try to turn at, what is it? It used to be the Husky, that the corner is such that they can't capably turn that, so then Perkins gets used as a truck route more often than not. But okay, thank you. Councillor Frank?
Nothing this evening, Your Worship.
Nothing? Okay. Thank you. City Manager?
Nothing, Your Worship.
City Treasurer?
Nothing, Your Worship.
City Clerk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
No, not Councillor Broba. Not again. Go ahead, Councillor Broba.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just don't think we had talked about the huge success the United Way Estevan was. So I was actually leaving that for you, Your Worship, to discuss how everybody in Estevan came out and supported us. We reached the $357,000 with $1. $357 and $1, and so that was above the goal. And so, yeah, huge thank you, but I was going to leave that for you to discuss.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Councillor Broba. And again, we can't speak about our community enough when it comes to volunteering and raising money, whatever the cause. This community always steps up to the plate, second to none. So I would like to, and again, thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our members off of council that are on the United Way board. I know you all work very hard, and I would like to thank all of the sponsors and all of the people that donated, whether it was $1 or 80, 90,000. It all is important, and thank you so much. And I know, again, SPC and the mine came to the table in a huge way, and God bless the power workers and the mine workers for all of their giving and for their gratitude. Much appreciated. Thank you again. So with that, I guess with no one wanting to make any extra comments, do we have a motion to move into committee? Okay. Councillor Ford, seconded by Councillor Frank. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. We stand adjourned. Thank you and good night.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today